So, as I'm sure you can tell, I'm a huge sucker for nostalgia. No, really? You, Steve? The guy who got so annoyed with the new Power Rangers movie that you and TJ picked it apart piece by piece? I know, right? And let me tell you, there's nothing that got my nostalgia engine running more than when I saw the announcement for the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. For those of you that don't know, the Insane Trilogy is an HD remaster of the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games. And when I'm talking about an HD remaster, I'm not talking about adding a few extra pixels and calling it good like some of these other HD remakes. I mean, BAM! Brand spanking new graphics with reworked cutscenes and everything. So, with this amazing little bit of nostalgia making its way to our store shelves and into our hearts, why don't we take a look back at how our wacky marsupial friend got his start. Picture it. The year was 1994. Fresh off presenting their game Way of the Warrior to Universal Interactive's Mark Cerny, Naughty Dog was signed on for 3 games. In August of 1994, Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin moved from Boston, Massachusetts to LA. During the move, the duo began brainstorming for a 3D action platformer. Because the style of the game would cause the player to be looking at the protagonist's butt the entire time, the game was jokingly called Sonic's Ass Game. The brainstorm for the game took them all the way cross-country. After pitching their ass game to Cerny and adding a couple new team members to the group, it was time to talk main character. And after weekly meetings, they came up with one little dude named Willy the Wombat. However, marketing director at Universal Interactive insisted that the character be named Wez, Wuzzles, or Wizzy the Wombat. However, after the level design was done, they placed Willy into the game, and after seeing their little character crash through crates they placed on the level, it was decided a complete rework would be done, and he would become Crash Bandicoot. In March of 1996, Sony agreed to publish Crash Bandicoot, which was shown off 2 months later at E3. And on September 9th, 1996, our crate-smashing marsupial buddy was released in North America, with an EU release dropping November 2nd, 1996, and a Japanese release on December 6th, 1996. Crash Bandicoot followed the titular character as he escaped the lab of Dr. Neo Cortex after the large craniumed villain mistakenly created his greatest nemesis, and now must stop Cortex and his henchman, Dr. N. Brio, from conquering the world while also trying to rescue his girlfriend, Tawna. Not even a month after the North American release, Naughty Dog began work on Crash Bandicoot's sequel, Crash 2: Cortex Strikes Back. For this game, Gavin decided to make an updated engine for the game, making it 3 times faster than the previous engine used for Crash Bandicoot. The new entry to the franchise introduced Clancy Brown as the voice of Dr. Neo Cortex, Brendan O'Brien as Dr. N. Jin and Dr. N. Brio, and Vicky Winters as Crash's little sister, Coco. Cortex Strikes Back was released in North America on Halloween of '97, December 5th of '97 in EU, and Japan saw the game on December 17th of '97. The sequel to the game follows Crash as he's abducted by Cortex and tricked into thinking the Big Dome Doctor has become a good guy and wants to save the world. Cortex tells Crash that he needs the power of crystals scattered across Insanity Island to halt the power of a planetary alignment and keep the planet from being destroyed. All the while, Dr. N. Brio tries to convince Crash to collect gems instead of crystals. Like its predecessor, Cortex Strikes Back was met with critical acclaim, and a third game wouldn't be too far behind. Fast forward 1 year later and the world is treated to Crash Bandicoot Warped, the third installment in the franchise, which was released on Halloween of '98 in North America, December 5th in EU, and December 17th in Japan. The game takes place immediately after the events of Cortex Strikes Back, as Cortex's space station crashes into the temple used to seal the evil Uka Uka away from the world. Uka Uka, the evil brother to Crash's spirit-masked Aku Aku, joins Cortex and Dr. Entropy as they try to gather the crystals scattered across different points and areas in time to enslave the Earth. This time around, players are given the ability to play as both Crash and his sister Coco. However, instead of switching between the two Bandicoots, the game splits some of the levels between the brother-sister duo. Warped was the last main series entry for the original PlayStation, with a couple of spin-off games following after, Crash Team Racing and Crash Bash, being released in 1999 and 2000 respectively. With the move to newer consoles, the team at Naughty Dog put their heads together and came up with the fourth entry to the main series. On October 29, 2001, Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex was released in North America with an EU release in November and a Japanese release in December. Wrath of Cortex centers around Cortex finally creating a worthy minion in Crunch Bandicoot, and using the power of the evil masks known as the Elementals, they try to take over the world as our hero Crash tries to defeat them and use the power of the crystals to return the Elementals to their dormant state. This game was different, as it was the first in the series to be released on multiple platforms, with an Xbox and GameCube release being dropped a year later in 2002. Again, a new main story game wouldn't be seen for a few more years, with spin-offs Crash Nitro Kart, Crash's Huge Adventure, Crash Entranced, and Crash Purple Ripto's Rage filling up the gap until the next entry. However, Huge Adventure, Entranced, and Purple were Game Boy Advance releases instead of console releases. The next entry in the main series would be dropped on August 30th, 2004 on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. This entry was called Crash Twinsanity. Twinsanity takes place 3 years after the Wrath of Cortex, and follows Crash and Cortex as they're forced to work together to stop alternate dimensional beings known as the Evil Twins from destroying the Wumpa Islands. This series introduces Cortex's niece, Nina Cortex, who would make appearances in 2 later games. After Twinsanity, there were 2 more spin-offs, Crash Tag Team Racing dropping in 2005 for the PS2, GameCube, Xbox, and PSP, and Crash Boom Bang in 2006 for the Nintendo DS. Unfortunately, after Twinsanity, the gaming world wouldn't see our Orange Bandicoot buddy for another year, and by then, his appearance was a bleak reminder of what happened to Spyro the Dragon. In 2007, Crash of the Titans was released to mixed reviews, most of them negative, as the game had a shorter length and went far from the original Crash Bandicoot formula. Crash of the Titans follows a newly designed Crash as he has to stop Dr. Neo Cortex from harnessing the power of Mojo to turn the inhabitants of the Wumpa Islands into mutants he calls Titans. The only way for Crash to do this? Find mutants and ride them into battle using an ability called jacking. Crash wasn't the only character in the game to get a redesign, however, as the entire cast received some sort of punk update. It's also worth noting that, while a minor-ish change, Crash of the Titans rewrites Crunch Bandicoot's backstory from the Wrath of Cortex as Crash's older brother instead of essentially the middle child of the Bandicoot family, with Coco being the youngest. But hey, at least this game gave us Greg Eagles as the voice of Aku Aku. For those of you that don't know, Eagles was the voice of Grim in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And for those of you that don't know what that is, go educate yourselves. It's a good watch. The last entry in the main series, and what's considered the Mutant series, is Crash Mind Over Mutant, which was released in 2008. Again, adjusting the game's formula and turning it into a mission-driven beat-em-up instead of a platformer, and bringing back the element of jacking from Crash of the Titans. This time, Dr. Cortex and Embryo have created a device called the NV, a PDA that's a parody of devices such as the iPhone and the BlackBerry. Whoever uses this device falls under the control of the villainous duo. However, of course, simple-minded Crash is able to resist the thrall of this device, and with the help of Aku Aku, must free his friends and stop Cortex. While this game received different ratings across various platforms it was released on, they were mostly hovering around the 50 out of 100 category. After the Mutant series crashed out, the last we saw of Crash was in 2016, when he and Cortex were added to Skylanders Imaginators. A bleak day for us all. To think that our little buddy would go the way of Spyro, forced into monotonous toy-based video games for all eternity.
Crash, I'm sure that Neo Cortex is behind all of this. You must stop him from meddling with the synchronization celebration, or the world might not hear from us for another 20 years.
Wait, what's that in the horizon? Could it be? Oh sweet Aku Aku, yes it is! On December 3rd, 2016, it was revealed at the PlayStation Experience event that Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy would be making its way to the home console of the PlayStation in 2017.
I'm proud to announce that we work with our partners at Activision. We're going to bring back the original Crash, Crash 2, and Crash Warped, fully remastered from the ground up for PlayStation 4.
The Insane Trilogy uses Naughty Dog's original level layouts to make what the developers' vicarious visions called a Remaster Plus, meaning it was not a remake of the series, but rather taking what was old, polishing it up real pretty, giving it a fresh coat of paint, and really showing everyone what can be done with 20-year-old assets. And honestly, we are not disappointed. As stated earlier, the Insane Trilogy is a remaster of the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games with majorly overhauled graphics, voice acting, and cutscenes. Man, I can't wait to get my hands on that game. But for now, that's gonna do it for the history of Crash. With rumors of more remasters on the way, let's hope they forget about the Mutant series. Though a remaster of Crash Bash could be very fun.
I have no idea how I got here. Last thing I remember, I was on the Wampa Islands and about to free my friend Tawna from the clutches of the evil Dr. Neo Cortex.
Did you guys enjoy our nostalgia-filled history lesson? What's your favorite entry in the Crash series? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more great nerd content, and we'll catch you guys next time. This is Steve with NerdMake, signing out. Stay nerdy!